On January 1st, 1914, the first commercial flight transported just 2 passengers from St. Petersburg to Tampa, Florida. While the passenger count was small and the flight was only 23 minutes long, this marked the dawn of the aviation industry, an industry that now rakes in billions of dollars each year. Air travel lowered both the cost and time necessary to move, which caused migration on a level never before seen. Innovations like these reflect the 20th century as a whole, as small discoveries led to massive impacts on a worldwide level. By this point, society was experiencing an unprecedented level of globalization and interconnectedness. Developments in the fields of wave and communication technologies led to the invention of tools like the radio, which further closed the geographical distance between the world.
And all of a sudden, you could literally just send your voice over to the other side of the world. I no longer had to wait long weeks to receive letters from my friends. We could literally just speak.
The early 20th century also saw the development of globalized cargo transportation, as better international communication expanded trade. Although sea trade dated back to the 7th century, the extent of which paled in comparison to the creation of cargo ships in 1951. Before long, these behemoths of trade carried the global economy on their backs, traveling hundreds of thousands of miles to deliver factory-made goods from port to port year-round. With ships and factories constantly demanding fuel, the oil boom soon began. Hundreds of oil drills would be installed, harvesting massive amounts of the resource at the cost of the environment. Over time, poisonous oil leaked into the surrounding areas, eroding soil and contaminating water supplies. Toxic gas was also emitted constantly, polluting the atmosphere and worsening air quality. Now, in the new globalized world, people found themselves moving away from their homes with the goals of creating better lives for both themselves and their families. In developing countries, opportunities arose for workers to emigrate and find jobs in richer nations.
Yes, I remember quite fondly of my moving to America with my grandfather. I believe it was 1972. I was in my 20s, and I recall the exhilarating experience of taking off from the ground and knowing that we were coming to America. And at that moment, I did feel a responsibility to take my heritage with me.
However, as cultures were being shared across continents, so too were diseases, with no disease being worse than the Spanish flu. The pandemic spread across Europe in the tail end of World War I, killing tens of millions in just 2 years, causing scientists to begin prioritizing the study of new medicines and treatment. Penicillin, the first major antibiotic, was discovered not long after and would save countless lives from otherwise lethal infections. By the mid-1940s, vaccines were developed for countless inflictions, protecting upwards of 4 million lives annually. With more lives being saved, more mouths required feeding. Thus, the Green Revolution of the 1960s ensued when scientists began genetically modifying crops to have higher yields and better durability, and began concocting new chemical fertilizers and pesticides. In the latter half of the 20th century, with better medicine and food supplies, the stars aligned for a boom in births and life expectancies. However, the invention of birth control would quell, to some extent, the exponentially increasing world population. The expansive growth of technology and science within the first half of the 20th century led to immense economic, social, cultural, and political change in the following decades. With better, faster transport for both cargo and people, economic growth and the spread of culture ensued, further accelerated by the invention of the Internet. The usage of birth control gave women more autonomy over their lives, not to mention more social equality, allowing them to focus more on education rather than starting a family. Modern medicine also allowed undeveloped countries to rapidly increase their own populations, bringing them one step closer to development. Despite the positive outcomes so far, the 20th century proved devastating environmentally. Global warming became an unavoidable issue. Smog declared Earth its permanent home, and deforestation grew to be commonplace as land was cleared for housing or farms. In all, the 1900s were a tumultuous era of unbridled advancement, which, while awe-inspiring, lacked consideration for consequence, thus leaving behind a legacy of pollution that the 21st century still struggles to restore.